There are moments in the book of Revelation that are cinematic, that capture the imagination, that draw the eye, that would make great action-adventure movies. We are, in this series, largely skipping those bits. I mean, everyone focuses on those bits, on the big set pieces of Revelation. And when we focus on the big set pieces, we can miss, the actual plot of what is going on. So last week we started with John, our narrator, our guide, the one who is taking us through this vision, meeting Christ, who told him, "Do not be afraid, for I am the first and the last. I was dead and now am living forever, and I hold the keys of death and of Hades in my hand. And I told you then that the key to all of this is remembering that Christ is the same Christ who we know from the Gospels, who we know from Paul, who we know from prayer, who we know from church, who we know from our time with Christ. It's not some different person, it's the same one, and that is important to understanding what is happening here and what will be happening through the rest of this book. Then, there is one of the set pieces. These 7 letters that Christ commands John to write to 7 churches. And again, there's plenty of commentary on these letters, plenty of ways to try to tease out what is going on with them. We're skipping that bit. And now we meet John in heaven's throne room, looking at God on a throne with living creatures and angels and elders worshiping. And in God's hand is a scroll that is sealed up so well. It has 7 seals along its edge, keeping it closed. And it is the scroll that is going to get this show on the road. It is the scroll that is going to start the process of bringing the world to its end. And God calls out for a volunteer. And not just a volunteer, but someone who is worthy of opening this scroll. And there is no one. There is no one in heaven. There is no one on earth. There is no one below the earth who is worthy of opening this scroll, of starting this show, of bringing the world to its end. And John starts to worry. John starts to be afraid. John starts to feel that tightness in the chest that comes with anxiety. What if no one can open this scroll? What if no one can start this show? What if no one can bring the world to its end? What if things just keep going on as they are? And someone says to him, "Don't worry. Don't panic. Don't freak out. Do not be afraid. For see, the Lion of Judah has conquered and is worthy and is on his way even now to open this scroll." We like the lion. The lion is strangely comforting. The lion, after all, is big and strong, a hunter who goes after its prey, a king among animals, power in the form of a large cat. The lion can do the thing that we want so often to have done. The lion can go after the wicked, who are always those people over there. The lion can bring the world to its end and make sure that those folks over there get what's coming to them. The lion can end this whole thing with bloodied claws and a bloodied mouth, with fierce fangs and claws that catch and a roar that stops the heart. The lion can turn things around and make sure that the wicked, those people over there, suffer, while the righteous, these people over here, live in glory, reigning over all the earth. The lion sounds awesome. And so John is ready. John is ready to turn and see the lion. The lion. And he turns and he looks and he sees a lamb, which is different. And not just a lamb, but a lamb whose claws are not bloodied, whose mouth is not bloodied, who does not have fierce fangs and claws that catch, who cannot so much roar. A lamb who is itself bloodied. A lamb who has been slaughtered, and yet who lives. John meets Christ again, right here in the form of a lamb, right here in the form of one who was dead and who is alive again forever, and who is worthy of holding the keys of death and Hades in its hoof. The lamb is not what we are expecting. The lamb is different. And the lamb, well, on the one hand, the lamb could be frightening. I mean, I remember what we did to Jesus. The lamb is the one who came into the world as one of us, among a dispossessed people in an occupied land, to parents who could not find a place to stay for the night, who lived the life we cannot live, who loved the love that we cannot love, and who we took and nailed to a cross and laid in a tomb. And that lamb could be out for revenge. But then we have to remember who Christ is. Again, this is the same Christ who we know from the Gospels. This is the same Christ who we know from Paul. This is the same Christ who we know from prayer. This is the same Christ who we know because we have spent time with Christ. This is the Christ who even on the cross looked to heaven and said, "Forgive them, Father, they don't know what they're doing." This is the same Christ who in the tomb went to Hades and opened the gates of hell and said, "Come out. It's okay. Do not be afraid." This is the same Christ who rose from the grave, who stepped out of the tomb into the garden, who asks us to follow him. This is not a lamb who seeks revenge. This is a lamb who was slaughtered for the sake of creation, to redeem all of the world. That may be the very reason that this lamb is worthy of opening this scroll. Because this lamb does not seek revenge. This lamb seeks reconciliation. This lamb is bloodied because by that blood, all else was washed white as snow, white as wool, white as that lamb once was. And so, we are left here in this moment, the one who is worthy of judging the quick and the dead, the one who is worthy of bringing the world to its end, the one who will decide what the end of the world is. And I should be clear here, not the end of the world as in the breaking of the world, but the end of the world as in the goal of the world, as in the purpose of the world, as in the completion of the world. The one who is worthy of doing that is the one who would lay down their life for the sake of the world. In a moment, the scroll will be opened. We'll have another big set piece. Things are going to happen. And if we were watching the movie, it would be exciting. There would be special effects. There would probably be one of those weird sky beams that they always put in superhero movies that comes down and starts destroying things. But we need to remember through all of this that the one who is steering the world, the one who is deciding the fate of all that is the one who laid down their life for the sake of the world. And who is not, after all that he has gone through, going to say, fine, just destroy it. We have nothing to fear. For Christ came to save the world, to repair creation, to restore all that is, to liberate all of us, to free us from the powers of sin and death and everything that makes life less forever. And so our faith is in him, in this unexpected Lamb, who does not act like a lion, but who is a Savior. We have nothing to fear. Thanks be to God.